Everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and today's Sunday message of love is brought to you today on December 4th, right at the solar eclipse we had last night at midnight. If you've been feeling the energies of the world, there's some big things happening, but there's also solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, partial eclipses. There is a reason that we're feeling all of this energy besides all the crazy stuff that's going on. So this past week, I've had a lot of my guided meditations focused on one person who I really love, and that's Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I have been following his work for a really long time. And I love everything about the way he teaches, the way his guided meditations flow, and just the way that his brain works along with his experience healing himself. I mean, if you've not ever heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I would highly suggest that you look him up and start doing a deep dive into this man's work, because his philosophy, his research, everything that he's learned along his own healing path, and all of the work he's done in research is very, very impactful, empowering, and an amazing time in humanity for people to discover this person's work. So this past week has been a lot of meditation with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And a couple of things came through really big for me this week, and that is the sheer practice and art of meditating and how we get in our own way. And I believe, and I've been studying this for a long time, that we can control the diseases or the lack of diseases that our body expresses. But what happens is we get caught in these emotions that bring up feelings, and it triggers us to walk through our day exactly the same way that we always walk through our day. So say someone has a really traumatic event and it elicits these really intense emotions, and they might be really negative emotions, because the same thing can happen with really positive emotions. And I've talked about this before on a video with Dr. Brandon Nielsen. We talked about how, think about your wedding day and the emotions that it puts in you on this day, just love and joy and bliss. And there's this whole buildup, especially to something like that that's planned. So this retains as a memory that you can literally recreate in your subconscious mind. You can recreate those emotions just by thinking of this event. You close your eyes, you feel the event, you picture it, you see the bride walking down the aisle, see the flower girl, you elicit all these emotions from that event, and your brain does not know whether you're experiencing this event in real time or when it happened. Your brain is eliciting the same emotions that you had when you were experiencing the event in real time. So the same thing happens with a negative event. So say you get into a car accident. Everyone's okay, but it was still very emotionally traumatic. And then you come home, you replay it to your spouse, you replay it to your friends, your neighbors. 5 days later, you're still feeling these intense emotions, and they're not necessarily good emotions. Maybe you got angry, maybe it wasn't your fault, maybe it caused a lot of damage to your car, and you have a big deductible on your insurance, and maybe the other person didn't have insurance. Like, whatever all these emotions are, there's something about being in this loop that even 5 years later, you could take the emotions of that car accident, you could let that define you through all of these years. And you could say, well, why is this person a bitter, angry driver now? Because of an event that happened 5 years ago. And what happens is these emotions become familiar. And as human beings, we like the familiar because it lets us go on autopilot. And we also get addicted. We get addicted to these emotions. So we think about this. We think and have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. And we believe that every thought we have is true. So when we walk through our day, we're having these thoughts that come, thousands of thoughts. We think that they're true based on different emotions and feelings and thought processes we've had throughout our life. And the thing is most of the emotions and thoughts we have are repeats of what we had the day before, because we don't make a conscious effort, which we only use our conscious brain about 5% of the time. So 95% of the time, there's these thoughts, these loops. This is who I am because my mother was this way. It's in my DNA. It's in my genetics. And if you've done any study on epigenetics and how our thoughts can create emotions, whether it's for health or disease, you know that this is true. But what happens is even when we know this, we still like to go back to the familiar. We like to go back into that loop of what's comfortable. Because what happens when you want to change the program, you have to break out of your comfort zone and get uncomfortable. And we don't like that. In fact, a lot of times we'll have all these inspiring moments of something that we can think, oh, this is, I really want to do this. I know I can do this. And then your subconscious, your body wants to go into that comfortable rhythm that is comfortable, but maybe not productive for you. And it says, oh, we'll do that tomorrow because it's uncomfortable. Because think about this, we do the same things every single day. We get out of bed on the same side of the bed every day. We go to the bathroom, we brush our teeth, we get a cup of coffee, we check our text, we scroll through social media. We start to create the same exact day that we had yesterday and the day before and the last 500 days because we're not doing anything that's different or that's conscious. Everything that we're doing is just a loop. So think about when all of the things that are happening in the world right now really pushed into full gear. Think about the emotions that were elicited in you. And as this year and a half, almost 2 years now has progressed, the emotions might have flooded from fear in the beginning, unknown, what's happening with this virus, we don't know, okay, we're going to kind of see what's going to happen. And then as the time has progressed and we have formed our own thoughts and opinions and feelings and emotions of what we feel is happening based on who we talk to, what we watch, what we read, all of these things have created all these emotions. And over all of this amount of time, we keep in those same emotions. We never say, oh, why am I stuck in anger at other people? Because my mind is programmed to that. And you know what? That's familiar. It's completely familiar to me. So you might say, I don't want to be angry or fearful or paranoid, or I don't want all these things, but you keep doing all the same things that keep you in those familiar and comfortable in an uncomfortable kind of a way, keeps you stuck that way because that's where you're comfortable. So what would happen if you started doing things that were different and you started paying attention to every time your mind thought something that was completely in your normal, but you were like, oh no, I'm going to pull that back and I'm not going to let myself go. And one of the best ways that you can do this is through meditation, because when you take yourself out of all the distractions, so you sit someplace quiet, close your eyes, you have no distractions from your phone, from your computer, from your texting, from whatever distracts you. So you literally have to tell yourself to sit, just like you would an animal. Sit and stay. I'll feed you later. You can check your text later. Sit, stay there, close your eyes, put earplugs in if you need to. Don't have anything around that is eliciting a smell, so you don't want any stimulation from your senses. And you're in a quiet, dark, closed-eyed place. And you start to think about what you're thinking and is it really true? And this is where guided meditation has come in very powerfully for me, because I have someone guiding me through these beautiful meditations of surrounding myself with love and light, imagining myself in a state of contentment and bliss and happiness. And when we imagine these things, it makes it true for our body and our biology, because the whole premise of epigenetics, epi means above the genes, epigenetics, above your genes. We're not the victim of what is happening to us. We are the creator of our reality. There are things happening beyond our control. There are things that we can do personally, sign petitions, take the actions. But one of the best things that you can do right now is to get a grip on your subconscious and how your emotions and your thoughts affect your biology, because that is where the changes are going to happen. Because I look at my life right now, and I've had a huge growth period where I've just been like, my whole life was disrupted, just like everyone else's life was disrupted. And I maybe haven't shared a whole lot of that, but there has been a huge shift in my worldview, the way I look at things. My friendship base has changed dramatically. You know, there are people now that I literally energetically can't be around. And there are people now that I realize, oh, you're like truly part of my tribe that I want to physically be in the presence of. And when you have these big changes that happen that you know are permanent, because I will tell you, I've never meditated more in my entire life than this past year and a half, almost 2 years, because I've needed to do that for simple self-preservation. And I'm sure that you've got things going on that you've had to do for self-preservation as well. But when I first started doing this, and in fact losing the things, the people, the experiences in my life that were just part of my comfort zone, and I thought they were good things, you know, but when these things started to change and it's uncomfortable, and not only that, what is happening right now is we're walking into the unknown. So what if you were to break out of your thought process and the things that your brain is telling you is true, the thoughts that you think are true, and you were to break out of that, and you were to start to say, oh, I'm going to bring that back to my conscious mind, and I'm going to really think, okay, how is this thought making me feel, and what emotions is it eliciting out of me? And is it taking me through my day with openness and love, or is it taking me in that same old loop of I'm afraid, and I'm a victim of my genetics, and I don't know what the world's going to do, and all this uncertainty and fear? And you get to change that, but it does take a conscious effort. And I would say give yourself 30 days at least, of 5 days a week of guided meditation. And you're going to have to really discipline yourself to start doing this if you're not doing this already. But I promise you, it will completely shift the way that you walk through your day. And you might even need to start doing something different, of like getting out of the other side of the bed. Now that might be harder if you have a spouse or a partner who's sleeps in one side and that's their side, because that is my case. I could crawl, I guess I could crawl over him and it would be like that, but I get up super early and it would wake him up. But find little things that would mess up your routine, not in a necessarily bad way. Maybe start working out before you eat a little something. So like my routine is I get up, I make some tea, and I have all my vitamins, and then I'll have a little bit of something to eat, and it's usually an hour before I start my workout. Well, what if I got up, brushed my teeth, didn't do all my supplements or my tea, drank a big thing of water, and went right to my workout? That would switch things up. And it's little things like that we do physically, that we literally just get into this rhythm where it's not even really our conscious mind, our brain working for us. It is our body just going on autopilot. And it's telling us what to think, what to watch, who to get mad at. Your coworker's sitting there every day, they do one little habit that drives you crazy and it triggers you. Well, what if you took yourself out of that where you let them trigger you, and you were like, okay, I don't have to be annoyed by this. I'm the one who's in control of what I think and what I feel and the emotions that I elicit to walk through my day. So if you're still in a loop of fear for whatever, I'm afraid for our freedoms, I'm afraid enough people aren't going to get this so that we can get back to normal, whatever your fear might be, how about if you take maybe the rest of the month of December and you disconnect yourself from those sources that are feeding into what is eliciting these comfortable, intense emotions. They're comfortable. You don't like them. It keeps you in these stressors. And I'm telling you, after a certain amount of time and that much stress that comes at us, your body that's just not the normal homeostasis, and your body will create disease because it's completely thrown off of balance. It's not our normal state to be in a state of stress. And this is where the meditation can come in. So I hope this kind of came together with some coherence with what I was really wanting to impart to you today, because I think that this can be something that will completely shift the way that you walk through life from here going forward. And you need to be willing to get uncomfortable and walk into the unknown so that you are the creator of your future rather than a victim of your past. Whether that's your past from an hour ago, or it was a past from 5 years ago, 20 years ago when you were a child, whatever. We get to replay this loop, or we get to rewrite our future based on how we decide to take a look at the world and get out of our loop of just simply unconscious behavior. And I know this is something that I don't think you're ever too old or too young to start putting this into place and to start learning that every single day can be absolutely as brilliant and beautiful as you decide to create it, no matter what your situation is, no matter where you live in the world. We get to choose how we view the world. And I want to bring this in at the very end here. If you've never read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, I would highly suggest you pick this book up. It's a beautiful read, and it'll remind you that as human beings, if we have purpose and we have passion, we can survive anything. And a lot of it depends on our mindset and how and what kind of emotions we create to take us through our day. So I challenge you to break out of your comfort zone and do something that's uncomfortable and out of your routine. Be conscious. Bring 95% of consciousness back and let the unconscious programs run, like breathing and swallowing and your heart beating. Those are all unconscious behaviors that keep us alive. But bring a lot of these unconscious behaviors that are hurting you back to your subconscious so that you can correct your path and move forward with brilliance. So I hope you got to the end of this video, but thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for just being a part of the movement of what's happening on the planet right now. It's something that I'm absolutely grateful for. I've had so much growth, and I'm sure you have had so much growth this year. Let's make sure it's growth that's beneficial and beautiful, not just for ourselves, our families, our friends, our neighbors, but for the collective, for humanity, because we're all connected to each other. And when we learn to vibrate in that kind of energy, forward-thinking, creative energy, it affects everyone around us and the world as a whole. So I hope you have a beautiful, brilliant day. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and we will see you next time.